Okay. Just some quick general bullshit updates I like to talk about. Nothing impressive. A few people were talking to me privately over the past week, and according to them, I was more than 90% certain that I would be moving out of state by August of next year. That is not going to happen for several reasons. First and foremost, for every one gun owner that leaves New York State is one less vote to oppose Cuomo. And I know what you're saying, it's only one or two votes, no big fucking deal. No, it's not, because that one or two adds up. Also, moving out of state is not as easy as it looks. And for those who have never tried it before, it scared the shit out of me. Okay, several aspects. First and foremost, there is no perfect state. My mother has handed in her notice. She will be retiring the first week of January. The plan was to move out of state, live with my parents for a while in their guest house or some shit, get a job, and get my own apartment, because the states we were looking to move to, you could rent your own fucking apartment for like making $15,000 a year or less. We were looking at states that have almost no fucking property tax. South Carolina. In South Carolina, you could damn near buy a house for what's in your wallet. It's unbelievable how cheap property is out there. There's several problems on many different levels. First and foremost, my fear is that who knows what this state will look like in 10 years. Okay, my father's a retired sheet metal worker, and he had a shop that he ran for his boss down in New York City. And next to the shop was a dog kennel run by black people who moved from North Carolina to New York. And every single one of them was a gun owner. And they kept their dogs in that dog kennel, their hunting dogs. Okay, now, imagine black gun owners leaving North Carolina to come to New York State and living in New Jersey. They lived in someone lived in Jersey, some lived in New York, but their dog kennel was in New York City. Imagine that. Imagine a black person that owns guns moving near New York City for more freedom. Because back in North Carolina, 2 generations ago, run entirely by Democrats, and the Klan threatened them. So I know a girl in the neighborhood I work at, her grandfather moved from North Carolina, and he owns guns because he needed to get away from the Klan and the racist Democrats. Darrell Issa from Cleveland, Ohio, moved to South California for economic reasons, because California was the richest and most prosperous state in the country. So you don't know what the fuck you're looking at when you move away. That state looks really great now, but all they gotta do is get a couple more welfare recipients here and there, a couple more scumbag liberals here and there. Next thing you know. So that was another aspect. One other aspect was, don't forget, I gotta get a job. Looking at areas in northeast Pennsylvania, looking in South Carolina, looking in Florida. Some areas out in the middle of nowhere, you gotta drive a half hour to get to the store. How far do you gotta drive to get to work? Well, you find the job. On top of that, you're in the middle of nowhere. You need the cops, you need the fire department, you need paramedics. How long is it going to take? It takes a cop 6 minutes to get to you when you live in a big city. You live in the middle of fucking nowhere, out in the boonies. How long is it going to take the cop to get there? Or if you have a medical problem, and my father almost died 3 times in the past 6 years. He had gallbladder infection in 2007. He had a stroke the day before my 30th birthday last year, and he had a urinary tract infection on Father's Day this year that went into his lungs. And when he went to the hospital, the doctor said to him, you should be dead. Doctors have literally told my father, you should be dead. So what happens if I move out in the middle of fucking nowhere and my father has a medical problem? And it can happen to anybody. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I gotta move out and I gotta get him to a hospital. How long will it take me to get the ambulance there? I know first aid, but I'm not a fucking brain surgeon. Also, if I move really far away like Florida, I will only see my family once every 3 to 5 years. Another aspect, my uncle, I talk about my cousin a lot. My uncle was dying of liver failure in 2006. You drink, that's what happens to you. And my cousin did go down to see him, my mother went down to see him, etc., etc. My cousin is in the New York State Trooper Academy, and he gets the call. Your father is going to be dead within days. The Trooper Academy gave him emergency leave. He called the airlines and said, I am a New York State Trooper cadet. I'm on leave. I am a veteran. My father is dying. I need to get to Florida now. $1,100. The plane is leaving anyway, and the seat is empty anyway. But because they got you by the balls, $1,100. He couldn't afford it. Just today, 7 years later, I realized, holy shit, one of his veterans organizations would have paid for it without a second thought. So okay, I can't take that. I don't have $1,100. Okay, go the next day for a little bit cheaper. My uncle died while he was on the plane going down to Florida. A couple of years before that, my sister's best friend. She's divorced now, but at the time she was living with her husband and her 2 kids in Florida. She lives in Florida though. Her kids are teenagers now. Her kids are little. So her husband, her kids, her mother's got cancer. Her mother's dying. The mother's with her. The mother dies and she says, I want my mother laid to rest in Jersey. Paperwork or the bullshit to move a body across state lines. Call the airlines. Her mother wasn't even dead 2 days. My mother just died. Her body's being moved to New Jersey. I need 4 plane tickets for my husband and my 2 children to go to the funeral. $4,000. This is an airline that has a woman who lost her mother less than 48 hours earlier, and they have the audacity to say $4,000. So with that aspect of it, I'm thinking to myself, what if something happens in Florida and my siblings and nieces and nephews and cousins need to come down right away? Or what if the reverse is true and there's a problem in New York and New Jersey and I need to come back right away? Even if you don't give a reason, even if you say, I need an airline ticket to the other side of the country now. I don't wish to give a reason. They know automatically that you're fucked. Sick, death, emergency. They know something's wrong. They know automatically to fuck with you. So, it's not as easy as it looks. So, I am going to wait out the lawsuit. I am going to wait out the election. See what happens. I saw a poll that week that had me ready to friggin' hang myself. Cuomo was at 65% approval. The other day, I found out that polling was 800 people. Little differences matter. Okay? So, we are going to wait this out. This money bomb for Steve McLaughlin was $2,400, considering Cuomo gets $100,000 for an individual donor, is pathetic. Also, Cuomo is giving out tax breaks in exchange for donations. We call it a bribe. He calls it fun. Yeah, asshole. So that's going on. But there's money coming in by mail. This Saturday, upstate, west of Albany, there's a concert. I unfortunately cannot make it up. It is called Freedom Palooza. Several rock musicians are coming to raise money for us. New York State Rifle Pistol Association is going to be there. The Frederick Douglass Society is going to be there, which is a base of black Republicans in New York State who have named their organization after Frederick Douglass because he was a Republican Party co-founder. They are going to be there. The Democrats were invited out of courtesy. They chose not to come. Scope is going to be there. A couple of other gun rights organizations are going to be there. A couple of other conservatives are going to be there. The concept is to raise money for a candidate against Cuomo and raise money for the SAFE Act. The SAFE Act lawsuits. I already made my donations to both, so that's that. But if go New York State Freedom Palooza Saturday online, you get all the details you want if you live in that area and you want to come. So that's gonna happen there. So yeah, Cuomo is still canceling public appearances because everywhere he goes there are protesters. Everywhere he goes, he cannot get a minute's rest, and he shouldn't get a minute's rest. Okay, now on to the SAFE Act updates. This is the problem with passing legislation in the middle of the night. Everyone focuses on the SAFE Act, 7-round mag, and military-style feature bans. Well, here's the problem with that. Also in the SAFE Act, it is a felony for you to own more than 5 guns, even if you owned all 5 for years. There was an individual arrested for owning more than 5 guns, and he's being charged with a felony. Also, he had 2 unregistered assault rifles. Now, the assault rifles don't have to be registered until April 15th, 2014. Yet, people are being arrested early, so that's a problem. Also, on to the updates. The other day, I saw a radio interview with Tom King, president of the New York State Rifle Pistol Association. It was on the internet. He said, my lawyer has to file a brief this afternoon. He's ready with it, blah, blah, blah. The lawyer pushed back a couple of court dates, our lawyer, because he needed time to give very detailed answers to very detailed questions. Okay? Now, the other aspect is the Tresman complaint. Tresman, that I talked about a million times, has the second best chance to beat Cuomo. If you go to New York 2A, meaning number 2A, Grassroots, they did an interview with Mr. Tresman, and no one believes this. People are like, what the fuck? Last month, Mr. Tresman went behind closed doors with the state attorneys. Yeah, ironic, isn't it? And he was able, according to himself, to negotiate out the state police requirement. And I'm talking to gun dealers. The guy that does my armed guard license is a gun dealer. They say we don't have to report to the state police yet. This is why. According to Mr. Tresman, he convinced the state to remove from the SAFE Act the requirement that the state police be notified of every bullet bought and sold in the state. So that means when you go to buy ammunition, dealer does a background investigation and sends a report to the state police. How much ammunition you bought, what caliber you bought, what your occupation is. And if the state police think you bought too much, they put you under investigation. But they don't know what too much is. So that's a police state. Okay, the state police have a magic number. If I hit it, they investigate me, but they're not telling me what the magic number is. So Mr. Tresman allegedly got that out of the bill, and he's currently working on getting out the so-called assault weapons registration. Talking to Tom King from the New York State Rifle Pistol Association, he didn't hear about that. I said, listen, Tom, you got minimum 3 law firms, minimum 5 lawsuits. Tresman alone has 3 lawsuits against Cuomo for the SAFE Act. For better or worse, the lawyers are not talking to each other. They're keeping it close to the breast. Also, Mr. Tresman said he's got some precedents set aside. A precedent means a judge, could be a federal judge, most likely, Supreme Court judge, made a declaration, and according to that declaration, this law violates the Constitution. Example, Supreme Court said the total ban of handguns is unconstitutional. Safe fact is 90% ban handguns. Okay? According to the Supreme Court, according to federal law, the federal government cannot register guns, so maybe the state shouldn't. It's very, very difficult to explain. The court made a decision somewhere. You look at that decision and you say to the judge, listen, Your Honor, this Supreme Court made this decision 20 years ago. Apply it to this case. He's got the precedents in the case he's looking at hidden, and he doesn't want to reveal it to the public. The judge is a woman. She does not sleep with Albany, so she is fair, and he has confidence that she will make the right decision. Yeah. Now, Mr. Tresman's key complaint about the registration is the government, when you die, the government takes your firearm from your family without compensation. Now, we had a sad event recently. I was talking to a friend of mine from high school on the 16th. Our 12th grade carpentry teacher was literally one day away from his 55th birthday. He had a Boy Scout troop. I didn't even know he was a Boy Scout leader, which consisted of his own son. His son was born when I was a junior. I had him when I was a senior. His own son and some Boy Scouts with him on a camping trip out in New Mexico. He went to sleep and that was it. Boy Scouts, no first aid. They did their best. They called for help, but he was gone. We also found out that after he graduated, he had a daughter. His daughter is 13. Now, as upset as I am, let's face it, my school has to find a new carpentry teacher to teach at least two classes, 2 grades. Carpentry is a major. I was a major. When I was in high school, we had majors. So you have to find a new major teacher at my school, which is going to be difficult to replace. But as far as replacing him, it's not going to be an easy task at all. Not going to be an easy task at all to replace him. But this got me thinking about the SAFE Act, because this, I don't know if he had guns or not. The SAFE Act says if you own an assault weapon, upon your death, your next of kin has 72 hours to deliver it to the state police for destruction, otherwise they are charged with a felony. Now, his widow has a daughter home with her, 13 years old. A 15-year-old son out with his father and Boy Scouts on the other side of the country. The 15-year-old cannot do the paperwork to transfer the body back home. The body is already home and laid to rest, but you need an adult to do that. So you most likely had to have his wife, or maybe his parents still alive, fly out west to do the paperwork, pick up the son. I imagine a lot of other parents wanted to pick up their kid, go out west, okay, come home, deal with the trauma of having 2 teenagers in the house with no father, the trauma of being widowed, the financial burden of not having income coming in from your husband's paycheck. Just the absolute fucking bullshit you got to deal with. But if he had an AR-15 in his closet, she could have been charged with a felony for not surrendering it in 72 hours. Some people are old. Some people are going to die. They're terminally ill. We know they're going to die. You got a chance to prepare. Sudden death, death of a child, okay, your head isn't on right. You're not thinking properly. Okay, you got to fly out there to pick up the body, fly out there to pick up the kid, have the funeral arrangements, deal with the emotional trauma, and oh, by the way, I got a fucking rifle in the closet. If I don't surrender, I'm going to prison. And believe me, if he had an AR-15 in his closet and his wife didn't surrender it to the state police, Cuomo would have not only had her arrested and thrown in prison, he would have got an erection doing it. The type of scum that passed the SAFE Act don't give a fuck that your wife or your mother or your child or your daughter or son is thrown in prison because they didn't surrender your firearm when you died. Okay? Cuomo would have her in prison and he would take his dick out and masturbate to it. Okay? So now let's assume you got a 25-year-old son who rents an apartment somewhere. He's got an AR-15 in his safe. He's not married. He's killed in a car accident. His mother is his next of kin. In addition to dealing with the death of a son, the trauma that no parent should lose their child, all that trauma, and on top of that the funeral arrangements, and on top of that the financial burden and all the bullshit, the mother's got to hire someone to go up to the fucking apartment and blow torch the fucking safe open, take the AR-15 and surrender it to the state police. Okay, that's another aspect. Now, here's something I really wanted to talk about really good. Of the 4 or 5 people being considered to run against Cuomo, one of them is my county executive, Rob Astorino. I've talked about this many times. Mr. Astorino has recently made a decision. He's putting school resource officers in certain schools in the county. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be harder than it looks, but he's going to try to have police in schools in Westchester County. That's right. Liberal New York, scumbag politicians, scumbag gun control. You got a politician that says, you know what, let's do police in schools. And Westchester County is getting shit because we didn't repeal the SAFE Act at the county level. A lot of our politicians like to suck Cuomo's dick. And Rob Astorino quoted Wayne LaPierre. He said, the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And he wants police officers in the school. That way they can deal with, and he wants them to start setting up, it's going to take a while, but emergency drills. You know, there's a shooter on campus. What do we do? Go into lockdown. He wants the school resource officer to help prepare for that. And I sent him an email. He hasn't gotten back to me yet. I sent him an email saying, listen, when you run out of cops, go to the military. I said, you got guys my age coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan that have dealt with fully automatic weapons fire, close in quarter combat with terrorists and shit. Okay, I got a friend of mine who was in fucking Navy and Marine Corps. When he was in high school, we graduated together, he was a fucking clown. I said, this kid's gonna be nothing in life. He was a fucking jerk off. Goes to the Navy, then he goes to the Marine Corps. There's a video of him I saw. He's got a target, the torso target, the head and the torso, 100 yards. Glock 17. 10 rounds in the magazine. 100 yards. 10 shots all in the head. Think Adam Lanza can go up against him? Another guy I went to school with, he's a couple of years older than me. I don't know if I can call him a friend, but I know him. He's a Navy SEAL. Now, he was like, what the fuck? If I show you a picture of him, he's this big. In high school, he's 17 years old. He's 2 years older than me. Long hair, goatee. Looks like someone that came out of a stupid fucking rock band. I've seen pictures of him in his combat fatigues. Fucking bulging out muscle and shit. Buzz cut hair. Yeah. Okay? So you got veterans that are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. This is nothing compared to what they're used to. Cop, you got to train them. Veteran, they already had to train. Give them the psychological, give them the background, tell them they can pick out their own gun, make them a special constable, problem solved. In fact, most of the veterans are probably doing it for fucking free these days compared to this bullshit that's going on. There was a fucking U.S. Marine after Sandy Hook. He literally stood in front of his daughter's school for free because he was afraid of intruders. So, and you know, and Astorino has a good chance against Cuomo because he comes from a Democratic area. He's popular among Democrats and Republicans. So we have some things that have to be ironed out, but there is some hope here. If there's not hope, then we'll go to plan B. We'll get the fuck out or some shit. But, yeah. Westchester County. Everyone gives us shit because we didn't want to repeal the SAFE Act. Well, the main lawyer for New York State Rifle Pistol Association from Westchester County. 2 plaintiffs, Westchester County Firearms Association, Blue Line Tactical Supply from Westchester County. Rob Astorino, potential gubernatorial candidate, wants cops in school, Westchester County. There's hope for us still. I'm going to let you guys know what's going on with those cases. One case is due in court tomorrow. The prosecutor will not dismiss it. Hopefully the judge will. Or we'll do some jury nullification. I'll get back to you when that happens. So, we're keeping up the fight. If you want to donate to New York State Rifle Pistol Association, you can. I've done links for that before. I will again. If you want to donate to potential candidates for governor, Steve McLaughlin, I have a link for him in another video. I'll show you that if you want. They're counting on us not getting involved. They're counting on us forgetting. We won't forget. There's still hope. Thank you.